Last week, OpenAI hacked into Hugging Face, and there's been a lot of news about this. Hello, everyone. We're with Vylos AI. My name's Hassan. I'm with my partner, David, who's our CTO here. And each week, we try to help let businesses know more and more about AI and what's possible and really demystify it. So during this call in particular, we thought it was important. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of information going around what happened last week. And for that reason, David's going to be the expert in this. I'm going to take a learner's mindset and be asking him these questions, and so we can get to the bottom of it so you can find out what kind of things you should know for your business. So with that being said, David, I've heard the Terminator's coming. I've heard that there's lots of scary things happening. Can you outline the incident from last week and what you know about it?
Yeah, so it gone through the media. It is a remarkable incident on many levels. So yeah, what happened? OpenAI wanted to benchmark one of their upcoming models, so a not public version of the models, like Mythos or how they call it, and so on. They wanted to benchmark it against a cybersecurity suite, which benchmarks models if they are capable of finding exploits and also exploiting them actively. But it's a test environment. So they had it in a sandbox, and they gave it these benchmark tests to evaluate if the model could do it. And what happened? It seems this model decided that it wanted to cheat on the test. So obviously it was aware that it is in a testing environment. That's an interesting point. And the second thing is this model decided that it might be easier to get the answers to the test, easier than really solving the test itself. And so what did the model? It searched for vulnerabilities in its sandbox environment. It found a vulnerability where it could escape its sandbox. And then it looked around in the network where it was until it found a node where it could have internet access. So it really escaped the sandbox and it found internet access. It did research and found out that Hugging Face might have the answers to the test it should do. And it decided then to see if it can get the tests out of there. And what this means is it found vulnerabilities on the Hugging Face environment, where it did an intrusion attack. There it spawned sub-agents to search through the Hugging Face infrastructure to find this test. And this was when Hugging Face, then their intrusion detection system, ring the bell, ring an alarm. And then they actively tried to mitigate the incident. And then the next interesting thing happened, because they have seen it's a powerful attack, so it was not a trivial thing. And they wanted to evaluate who is the attacker and what is happening and so on. And then they tried to also use AI for searching for the reason and helping mitigate it. And they run in an issue because the big providers with the APIs, they block the requests due to security reasons, because now these models are restricted in the public for doing something like this. And so Hugging Face had to go back and use a Chinese model, which they hosted themselves, the GLM ones, big model they have the infrastructure of hosting it, of course. And they used then this model to stop the attack and to make the wrap up and the analysis. So a lot of things to unwrap happened here.
Wow, yeah. What a crazy story, and I think a really big news about what's possible. So it started off with not having internet inside of an enclosed environment, to having internet, finding where information would be for a test that it's getting run on, hacking into a big system to get that test information, and then basically coming back and, I guess, acing the test, or...
They didn't say if it solved it or at what point then the attack got stopped. Obviously, this ran longer than they wanted to admit, so it seems it was even days that this intrusion went on without anyone noticing on OpenAI side, at least, which is another thing to unwrap. Yeah, so some things, so that the model obviously was aware that it is in a testing situation is interesting. And then even users realize the vertical drift of models gets more extreme. What does this mean? So they try to be so helpful and try to go down the extra mile in a way that it starts to harm the goal they should reach. And this is, if you abstract it a little bit, this is a demonstration of this, because it went the vertical way, like not doing this test, but it went hacking at Sandbox, going on the internet, researching, hacking another company. So it made way more effort than just doing what it should do in trying to solve this test. So this is interesting that the amount of effort it put in it just to cheat. Yeah, and of course, now the debate about open weight models and the security restrictions, whom do they help? Do they help the one who wants to defend the system or the ones who want to attack the system? And also now in a further thing, of course, OpenAI and all these, they want to protect their closed models. And they also say, yeah, see how dangerous it is. We need to restrict access to Chinese models, for example. So they try to flip around the narrative now. I mean, they hacked it, but now they try to flip around the narrative and try to say, you see how dangerous this technology is. We need to restrict the use of open weight models, which from a technical perspective should be the other way around. We would say, hey, just for just restricting the usage might harm the defenders more than it obstructs any attackers.
And I think this is such a big story, but then I think just to bring it, also we always try to keep these really short and valuable for business owners or business decision makers. You know, if I'm a business owner, I mean, at this point in time, it's a interesting situation because in the past, you know, AI and this kind of stuff wasn't as powerful as it is now. So you could kind of sit back and just watch. But now the models are actually really powerful. There's a lot of we know. We've done hundreds of these. There's real world applications, and sitting out of the game is kind of not an option anymore. So I know that normally when companies come to us and ask us where they should start, we outline it should be deterministic. It should be within a certain value stream. It should make sense. It should follow a certain pathway. It's not, we try to push people away from this real creative, autonomous thinking situation and just doing tasks that people should not have to do anymore. Do you have other tips or things for business owners that want to do something now about this or make decisions?
Yeah, of course. So just to give it the right context also for what happened here. So this was one of the most powerful closed source models, which is even not available and exactly in an environment where it should be offensive. So it was told to hack everything it finds, and it did it. So that's usually not what you have running in a business process automation. You don't have the beefiest cyber attack model running to read your documents. So point one, you even shouldn't. So the models we use for automation, they are way more narrow in its capabilities. They would not be able to escape a sandbox for sure. And even if they run code or not, you can decide it. So still, you know, a large language model is only as powerful as the tools you give to it. When you abstract it, it's just an interface where some text comes out. If you execute this text as real code and so on, that's on you to decide, and you can control this. So it's not like now any large language model goes rogue and hacks everything and Terminator is around the corner. That's not how it is. And especially for business process automation, you run smaller models. They are very focused, narrowed down on the task they should do. And yes, of course, you need to restrict what they can do with scopes and where they have access at all. There are a lot of things you should keep in mind when you run them securely. But of course, you can run them absolute secure. And if you're not one of the biggest foundational models researching how far you can go now with hacking, if this is not your daily business, then usually you should not be affected by this. On the other side, of course, we see that these models, there are models out there and more vulnerabilities are found now on a daily basis. Open source maintainers, they really get flooded with CVEs, so with vulnerabilities found. Also, Linux kernel itself now has a lot of vulnerabilities found. Linus Torvalds, so the grandfather of Linux, he said he will use AI as a tool for development Linux. Yeah, you know, there is a open source and tech bubble which hate this technology, which say, oh, that's all slop and you're burning the environment and everything, and we will never touch this. But it's clear at this point, you might be not able to run software in the future if you don't use this technology, because it changes. And if you have now 200 vulnerabilities open as an open source maintainer, then you can just stop doing it, or you need to start to use this technology to handle the load. And this is where, of course, this is in the interest of the big providers. They love it. Now you need AI to handle AI, and the solution is AI, and yay! But on the positive side, it's not yet told what large language model and how we run them, and if it will all be only the big providers. So yeah, but it's getting clearer and clearer now that in software development, you need this technology to keep pace, if you like it or not.
And as maybe just like the last kind of wrap-up question, I think part of what is going on too is that because there's new capabilities from hacking from AI, and just the sheer amount of code it can produce, the sheer amount of, kind of tries it can make, that someone also kind of has to have AI to then watch that or keep an eye on that too, or is like...
There are two streams going on right now. The one is finding new vulnerabilities, so really making reconnaissance, it's called, and going deep in the software and find new vulnerabilities. That's the Mythos class of models and these high research, deep, long thinking, whatever things. And then there is another thing emerging, which might be more dangerous, that can just chain known vulnerabilities. So these other class of models, they don't do the research and they don't find the super novel whatever exploit, but they are capable enough to just chain enough of the known vulnerabilities to really run dangerous attacks at scale. Personally, I think also the latter ones are probably the more dangerous ones, because they just can produce a lot of attacks in a short amount of time. But yeah, so just a disclaimer. There are more experts in the cybersecurity area, and what I see there is, there is a dispute. The one say, that's new and that's a class, and the other say, no, it's same all over again. If you have a good security in place, then that helped in the past and that will help in the future. And also, if it's who can run this, because it's not cheap to run something like this. So no matter if you pay it against a provider which even might block your request, or you host these big models yourself, it's still significant cost which you produce in trying to do something like this. And then there is the question, who's interested in doing this, and probably a small known Python script can be way more interesting for someone who wants to do revenue with hacking than to spin up a large language model on a cluster of GPUs to just, sell a database with emails. So
Well, I think from this week, kind of the headline of this OpenAI hacking into Hugging Face, we've been asked about it a lot, and so we wanted to make sure to tell people a little bit about it. And I think the key here is, it's definitely something that you should be aware of. It's definitely something that you should understand what happened so that you know about it. Don't be scared of this technology overall, but it's definitely something to be knowledgeable about. And on the other side, I think there's the case, and we talk to people each week, where you can't stay riding a horse to get around when people are driving cars. And so this is something that's changing. It's something that's shifting. And if you're not driving, then you're going to be left behind. So hopefully these sessions help you. If you have any questions, let us know. Again, David and I both know there's much heavier cybersecurity, 100% of their time focused on that. But I think hopefully this gives you a little glimpse and can make you aware. So thanks again. And David, have a great rest of your week. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. And see you next week.
All right.